Hello, tabletop gamers. This is Rod. I'm just going to give you a quick update on my 68-69 ABA season project for Fast Break here. As you can tell by the picture on the screen, this is where I started. I had a template from Michel Matanier. He had a template he used to recreate some of the original seasons of Fast Break. And I took that template and decided to produce a 1968-69 ABA season. This season was pretty good statistically because I did keep track of offensive rebounds, tricky stats like that, turnovers, and pretty much full stats, everything but steals and block shots I could not get a hold of. So I went through a process of rating all the players based on what other fast break teams of the 11-year run of Jim Mickey's fast break looked like. So, and I came up with some cards, some obviously some free throw ratings right here. The jump ball rating for a center like Red Robbins of New Orleans Buccaneers. I pretty much went to town on every single stat I could, and I gave players nicknames, jersey numbers, and filled in a lot of the stats on the bottom. As you can see, he was also all NBA second team. So after I got all of that done, played a few test games and things, and recruited a couple people in the tabletop community who I knew liked fast break as a younger person, and I had them play these games out, and I made some adjustments. Well, when I made the adjustments, I tried to get a few more field goal attempts and free throw attempts and things into the cards by reducing a lot of the passes on this defensive card. You can see Red Robbins has a pass on 4 here. I got rid of turnover, bad passes in many cases, just to up the amount of shots. And I just did that throughout the 11-team league of the 68-69 ABA. Well, long story short, that didn't really work out very well. There was scores started approaching 140, 150 points for certain teams, including the Oakland Oaks, who were clearly the best team in the league. And so I, after a few games of frustration, I came up with a middle-of-the-road, what I hope is a middle-of-the-road solution, and reinstalled some passes. Use Team Fast Break cards. Well, let me see. I'll show you a Team Fast Break card in a second here. Like this Oakland Oaks card right here. This card used to have fewer no outlet passes, fewer held ups on the middle lane of the fast break, things like that if you're familiar with fast break terminology. And so it slowed down their fast break a little bit. Hopefully that'll work in addition to re-adding a lot of the passes and things. This was the original release, which had the passes and things in it. So following a little review of these original cards, which I call the standard or black and white edition, I decided to go to town and not just add the nicknames, the jersey numbers, and whether they made an all-team, NBA team, and all-rookie team, and added all the stats, which is a lot more detailed than a typical Jim Mickey fast break card. I decided to add some photos and mug shots and action shots, and I came up with something that looked like this. And as you can see, it's the same card of Red Robbins. And as you can see, he had a pass on 4 and 10, and I have reduced the passes to 5 and a turnover bad pass on 10, and just changed his card up a little bit. So, and this is him at forward. He's actually an all-star center, but I got his forward card here. But as you can see, I also added a mug shot on the offensive and the defensive card, as this card is separated by the dashed line when you actually want to play games. Some players don't. I also found, rare to find in 1969, a color photo, and I just slipped that on the defensive card as well. He has a different defensive card for center, and there are different photos on that defensive card, and I might be able to show you that. Let me see. Oh, no. And there it is. there's his primary position card where I found another color photo. Most of my photos are black and white, but I found color ones when they were available. And of course, Red Robins with the red hair, had to show that off with the ABA ball. I also got a little bit of input from Matt Rockwood. He said, hey, an ABA ball would be a cool thing to put on a card. So I threw that on there in addition to team logos. So it really doctors up the card. I made the New Orleans Buccaneers name in blue, one of their team colors. I was kind of running out of colors because most of them have red or blue. And there are certain teams where I try to use a different number, and I can show that off in a little bit as well. So anyway, I also doctored up the team fast break cards. Let's see if I can find the Buccaneers. That'd be early in this alphabetical list here. There's the team fast break card. These are just the scans that I made following all of the doctoring. I do a lot of the work in Microsoft Word. And there's what the team fast break card looks like. Got the Buccaneers logo, got the ABA logo, threw a little blue color in that as well. And that just kind of is throughout the league. I did this work. You can see some of the cards. Well, they're not zooming up very big, but there's Mike Butler, typical logo, mugshot, same mugshot on the defensive card, and an action shot if it was available. So Lee Davis, Ron Franz, try to do it for every card in the league. And I'm going to make this league season of cards available to my tabletop basketball board games group members very soon. It will just require you to print out the old player determination cards from the ones that work from 79 through 1986, basically. And there's a couple of them in our files section, and I will guide you to those. Also, ABA has the differences in the rules as we look at Marlbert, Prod. There's Robbins, Glenn Salters. I can show off more teams as well. Let me see if I can find another team. Let's just go to the Indiana Pacers. They were runner-up. They led the Eastern Division. And once again, I say these are just the scans. I did a non-bordered card, which I will show you in just a few minutes. This is what the Pacers look like. There's the great Roger Brown playing forward. Like I said, if they played two positions, I use the same offensive card for each of the two position player. And then I change the defensive card. So you will get, when you print out these cards, whether it's in color or black and white, you will see the same offensive card for any two position player. That's the way I do it. There's not a lot of ways to just print out a defensive card. So there's his guard defensive card. This is the valuable piece if you want him to be a swingman for the Pacers. There's guard defensive card rating, offensive rebound rating as a guard as well as a forward on that card. So, but found some really classic photos. This has got to be a 1968 or 67, 68 or 68, 69 photo of Roger Brown. What a classic player. What an underrated, little-known player. Like Connie Hawkins, he was banned for being allegedly involved in a point shaving scandal, and he decided, and even when Hawkins received his settlement for, they never found anything, Roger Brown also received a settlement, but instead of jumping to the NBA like Hawkins did, Roger decided to sit tight, and he knew where his, he was loved in Indiana, and he didn't want to leave. So, and the Pacers won 3 championships while he was there and went to the finals a number of times. So it was a smart move by Roger, and he was certainly a great player that many people don't know anything about. And this is the league MVP, Mel Daniels. And this guy can score. He led the league in rebounds at 16.5, all NBA first team MVP, and that's what you get for an MVP type player. I try to get one of his better shooting shots. He's going up and shooting a patented turnaround, and but he also has a younger version of his mug shot. If I would have used mug shots from a few years later, there would be a lot more, hairstyles changed, mustache, facial hair. There had been a lot more hair on his face, basically. So this is what he looked like in the late 60s. That might be a Minnesota Muskies uh, jersey. He played the first season of the ABA there, but he was sold for nothing from Minnesota to Indiana because Minnesota could not make any money. They put two teams in Minnesota, including the Pipers, which they did for the '69 season of these cards, and he did not, and they did not make any money either, so they moved them back to Pittsburgh. So, but anyway, that's what some of the cards look like in electronic form. I was going to show off some of the physical cards. Hold on. As you see, we get a glimpse of the paper cards for the Oakland Oaks. And the Indiana Pacers. I was going to show off a couple of Team Fast Break and Triggerman cards for the Oaks. Hold on. As I showed earlier, the Oaks are dominated. They led the league in scoring at 126.5 points per game. They obviously got out on the break quite often, and they had a starting lineup which consisted of Doug Moe, who most know as a coach for the Denver Nuggets and/or San Antonio Spurs. Rick Barry was their small forward. He was technically the scoring champion, but he only played 35 games. Part of his trio of scoring championships in college, the ABA and the NBA. So Rick is pretty darn fabulous, but I actually came up with two cards for him on the defensive end. This gives him the ability to play some guard, especially if he's healthy and someone else gets injured. I think Rookie of the Year Warren Armstrong missed about 7 games for stepping on Jim Jarvis or something like that and got suspended. And so Rick might find himself in the guard slot, especially when you got a guy like Doug Moe and their bench, which includes a forward named Gary Brads, who nobody knows about. Gary averaged almost 19 points a game, 18.7, and he was a tremendous scorer. Rick played roughly parts of the first 40 games of the season, and then he was gone for the year injured-wise, helped with in the broadcast booth, all that stuff, but he did not appear in the playoffs. Didn't matter. The Oaks went on a 16-game winning streak following his departure and made it to the finals, beat the said Indiana Pacers, and Gary averaged well over 20 points a game in the finals series, and or at least for the championship, for the playoff run, he averaged roughly 20 points a game. So quite another underrated player, a guy drafted in the early 60s by an NBA team, never made the team. But when the ABA arrived, they came knocking at his door. He said he'd play some ball. So a short-lived ABA career, but still a heck of a run in 1968-69 for the Oaks. The other double position player I'm going to show off today is Warren Armstrong, the ABA Rookie of the Year and ABA Finals MVP. See, he can play two positions. And I littered his defensive card with photography. A couple of these on this card, the guard card, are Washington Caps photos. The Oakland team moved to Washington the following season, but I just love these two photos. They're the best I could find from the 1960s. And so he's slam dunking on one of them. And then there's a couple Oaks ones on the forward position. But he's an amazing guard who averaged about 9.7 boards and 21.5 points, and he's only 6'2". So a lot of rebounding from the guard position. He's got a missed shot rebound defender on his guard card, number 7. But I just think these cards look pretty cool. The color really accents them. I go with the green Oaks symbol, and then the logo with the yellow and green, and a little bit of color with the ABA ball on the defensive card. So of course, no one can forget Larry Brown, not related to Roger Brown. Larry was one of the first point guards in the ABA. He led the ABA in assists, I think, maybe the first 3 seasons. Little 5'9" guard, didn't get a sniff from the NBA, but was a heck of an ABA guard. He even played into the 74 season, and was always productive, solid shooter, and a very good passer. So, scrambler on defense. Of course, I got a number of Larry Brown shots on the defensive card. And despite his size, there was a lot of smaller players in the league, so he wasn't the smallest guy. So, great contributor to a championship club. And of course, he played at North Carolina with Doug Moe, so they were buddies for life, basically. Anyway, their opponent in the finals was the Indiana Pacers. I've already mentioned Roger Brown, Big Mel Daniels. There was also Freddie Lewis, one heck of a point guard. This team had 4 guys, along with another player that doesn't get a lot of exposure in NBA circles. It's Bob Nedelicki. Neto plays both forward and center, and he could really score. I've been reading Loose Balls, the book about the ABA by Terry Pluto, and I just was reading up once again on the fact that Neto was kind of a flake. He wasn't always 100% in the game. Didn't always give a lot of 100% effort, but when he had his head in the game, they were really a well-oiled machine, because Neto averaged around 19, Brown averaged over 21, Mel averaged 24, and Freddie Lewis averaged 20. So that was a high-scoring offense. The difference between these two teams mostly is the fact that the Pacers were just learning each other for the first time. They had Bobby Slick Leonard as coach, who came on after a 2-7 start by Larry Staverman, who was an NBA player who just showed up to the Pacers and felt he could coach, and he wasn't that great a coach. So Slick Leonard righted the ship, and this was the first effort by the Pacers to get to the NBA Finals of 5 times under the Bobby Leonard coaching scheme. And they were quite a team following this. They got even better and better. And the core of these players, with Neto, Daniels, Roger Brown, and Freddie Lewis, remained the same for quite a few years, with a few exceptions. But anyway, this is 1968-69 ABA. I was just giving you an update. How did the cards print out? This is a borderless print. I decided to do that, where in my 60-61 NBA homebrew, I was putting a whole bunch of borders on the cards, and I can say that the borders are nice and clean. I can show you a card, 1 second. As you can see, this Lakers card has a dark border around all of it. I did this about 3 years ago. Triggerman summary card. Player cards kind of look like this. Here's a Frank Selby. Oops. Selby plays guard and forward. So as you can see, there's forward and guard stuff for Frank Selby here. Even though he's just 6'3", it was a short league in 1960-61. But you can see those borders. They kind of the darker border. And so at the last couple days, I've just considered, got some advice and decided that a non-bordered card would actually work, even though there's no the drawback of using a non-bordered card is where are the lines to cut the cards. Well, my 6869 cards come on a letter size sheet, and you can cut that sheet horizontally in half, and I had it professionally done at the FedEx Kinko's, and they cut that sheet in half, and I made all the remainder cuts, and each card is 5x3. So, in not so getting into too much detail, it is possible to do these without too much effort. You just need a nice cutter, like a guillotine type cutter, to measure the 3x5 size. So I got a little bit of help from FedEx office, Kinko's, whatever the heck they are, and then I did the rest of the work myself. So, and they seem to come out pretty darn good. I mean, a guy like Ron Perry, there's some minor flaws that are probably not noticeable to most people that I notice on these cards, but this has been a fun project. I hope the gameplay is as good as I believe it will be. I've played limited games with this, but having fun with it nonetheless. And if something goes wrong, I can always edit the cards and take it back and print out another one. So I'm hoping I don't have to do that too often. But that is 6869 ABA for Fast Break. I intend to have this probably available within the next few days, and I hope people have fun with it. I hope you throw a box score or something on the Tabletop Basketball Board Games page of Facebook. Let me know if you're having a good time with these old cards, or if it's not your cup of tea, I understand that as well. But anyway, a free download, and it should be a lot of fun. Anyway, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.